Welcome to the Pickleball Guru's newest webinar. I'm Randy Manaply, and I'm here with the original traveling pickleball coach and author of the two best-selling books, Smart Pickleball and Drop Shot Till You Drop.
Hello, Guru Nation. Welcome again.
This webinar is called Get a Grip and is all about how to grip your paddle. Prem, there's lots of talk about positioning strategy, drives versus drops versus lobs, dinks, etc. But it seems to me there's not much talk about how you grip your paddle aside from the Continental versus the Eastern grip. How important is your grip on the paddle?
I think grip is a very extremely important part in the game, especially because how you hold your paddle, it determines the type of shots you can execute with it. Certain grips can be very restrictive. Certain grips can be universal, but could not have certain effects on the you want to put on a ball would also be affected. But in general, in a game like tennis or racquetball, it has a lot more bigger impact in terms of spin, the way you grip your paddle. In pickleball, it is less, just because of generally the surface being less conducive to extreme spin. But having said that, certain grips would definitely be easier to execute than certain other grips, which would be much more complicated unless you're extremely skilled on using those type of grips. Example I could give is Riley Newman, who has a very interesting grip, but is very, very effective with this style of play.
So let's start off with the first question that I alluded to above, Continental versus the Eastern grip. Can you explain what they are and the advantages and disadvantages to each? I know you have a paddle with you, so please show what you're talking about while you're explaining all this.
Okay. Let me explain. Let me explain what a Continental grip looks like. So this is my paddle here, and a classic Continental grip is like what you call like a shake hand grip. If you're holding your paddle and you're holding it like this, like a V, when the V, I call it, is actually in between the paddle, you're holding it that way. To give you an idea, or let me explain, I'll show you different ways of looking at it. If you're holding that paddle that way, and so if you're holding it this way, where the V is in between the handle, the paddle handle is in between the V of your hand with your knuckle of your pointing finger towards the backhand side of your paddle, that would be considered like a Continental grip. Now, the Eastern grip generally is not very different from the Continental grip. It is just a little bit more modification, just allowing you to, just a little bit more twist to it, so that you're actually holding it with, so that you can spin balls or you can side spin the balls for a backhand grip generally. So it's more pronounced than a Continental grip. The V is just shifted a little bit more, and so that you can hold it that way. And so that allows you to do that. So that's the difference, major difference. Now, the advantages of a Continental grip, you could, if you have a Continental grip, you can actually play pretty much the whole game with a Continental grip, backhand or forehand, fluidly without having to change multiple grips. And predominantly used to be used a lot in the tennis world, which is less and less these days, especially on a forehand. They tend to use it less these days. The reason behind it, it limits you in terms of how much topspin you can put in part on a ball. Like when you're trying to roll a ball, it's much more difficult to do a topspin with a Continental grip. It's not difficult, but it's less pronounced than what I would call a Western grip, for example. But having said that, those are the disadvantages of it. But in pickleball, because of the nature of the court being smaller, a lot smaller than a tennis court, the nature of the fact that the court, that the ball doesn't really spin that much anyhow because you have your flat surface. It's not strings. It allows you to actually play with a continental grip, and it's predominantly played. I would say in the world of pickleball, it's predominantly the mostly continental grip folks are doing that. So with the continental grip, at least you have the advantage of not shifting much from your grip. Eastern grip is more a little just turn the twist, attach twist with the pointy fingers knuckle more pronounced going towards the backhand, allowing you to have more control on your backhand side. But you don't have to go to the Eastern grip completely. And you could use that also as a forehand grip, but continental grip is generally used in majority of players. Does that answer your question there, Randy?
I believe so. We'll talk more about all that later on about what you recommend. But you mentioned to me that I have some type of claw grip that that's probably incorrect, but you say it works for me. So what am I doing wrong?
Well, now the claw grip, which you talk about, Randy, is what I call a Western grip.
Yeah.
So the Western grip is like if you lay your paddle on the ground, and if you picked up the paddle, pick the paddle that way, then it becomes what you call, that's called a Western grip. If you pronounce it more that way, then that's basically your backhand grip too, which is a Western grip. But this is with this what you call, like, if you're grasping that paddle that way, someone like Riley Newman uses that a lot for his grip, which is a forehand grip in tennis. Pretty predominantly used these days because you can impart enormous amount of spin on a tennis racket with that type of grip. Now, again, as I said, it's not a very easy thing to do in a pickleball, with a pickleball on a pickleball racket or a paddle. So then when you're doing that, in your case, when you're holding that Western grip, you can probably hit a lot of forehands with that, but your backhand is pretty much limited with that type of stroke. As you would have noticed, if you watch YouTube videos of, again, like with Riley Newman, he tends to actually hold it with two hands so that he can support the backhand more easily. And he's very effective with it, but it is not an easier grip. Generally, they go from Western to semi-Western in terms of how they do it for the backhand. So how that limits you is mostly, generally, if you have a claw grip, as you call it, because it's like a claw, you're holding it that way. And so the forehand is fine. You can hit balls with more power or anything like that because you're hammering it. Whereas on the backhand side, it just becomes very complicated. This is where you see some people having to turn, try and hit balls this way. When you're trying to hit a ball this way, you're pretty much limiting the strokes you can hit with a ball with a Western grip because you're only going to go one direction with it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're holding it like this and the ball's coming here and you're hitting it, you're only going to go this way. This is pretty hard to do wanting to go to the line, for example.
Right.
So having said that, I'm not saying you shouldn't use a Western grip, but it is in pickleball, at least, I think it's a lot more complicated. So that's one of the things when I say when you have a claw grip, it allows you to control certain parts of it, but then generally your backhand is pretty much limited with a claw grip or Western grip.
Okay. Now let's move on to grip strength, meaning how tight you hold the paddle in your hand. Why does grip strength matter, Prem?
Excellent question there, Randy. Why does it matter? As I said, compared to a tennis court, which is almost 4 times bigger than a pickleball court, you don't really need to have to grip it so hard. Like if you have a scale of ranges you want to hit, if 1 being the loosest grip and 10 being the tightest grip, you're rarely in a 10 grip or a 9-10 grip in pickleball, simply because you're not really hitting it that hard unless it's an overhead or maybe sometimes a passing shot, generally in singles, where you need to generate more speed on the ball or space. For that particular reason, you might need that speed. That's only time you're using your 10 grip, I would say, the tightest you can hold, so that you can, drive the ball. But as the pickle, and anything further than that, as you know, is going to be out, because it's much more smaller as a court. So generally, your grip varies between, I would say, between a 3 and a 5 over most of your part of your game, in terms of your resets, in terms of your drop shots, in terms of your dinks. Most of the time, your grip is much more compact in that critical 3 to 5 range. So then you don't need to really hold it so tight on your hand. So you want to really grip as gently as possible in your hand.
And
did I question perfectly, or do I have to give more
you probably went on more than what I wanted you to. But we'll get to that in a minute, because we're going to talk we'll talk more specifics about certain shots and grip strength in just a moment. But first, I want to mention our upcoming camps in Richmond. We only have one spot left in the upcoming Richmond boot camp over the weekend of May 13th. And we've also reduced the number of participants for the upcoming Boot Camp Express, which means that you can get this 12 hours coaching experience over the weekend of May 21st for only $497. There's 4 people signed up now, with only now 4 spots left. The Denver boot camp in June is sold out, but there are 4 spaces available in the Charlotte boot camp in August. Indoor courts, by the way, there. We've also added a boot camp in July in Jasper, Indiana, for all you Midwesterners. Clinics are also available in Richmond, Denver, Jasper, and Charlotte. And if you want your boot camp with an international flair, we have Costa Rica coming up in November and Sandals in Jamaica in December. And Costa Rica, I believe, is almost sold out. I think we only have like 4 spots left.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandals in Jamaica, I believe, is almost sold out. I think there's only like 2 spots left, with people about to get on the waiting list there.
Uh-huh. That's good to know. Yes, as far as Costa Rica, yes, I think we will have 4 more spots left to go. It is going fast, so please do get. I think the few bedrooms which are available are the ones which have a shared bath. So someone who 4 friends who wants to get together would be a more ideal situation, because they still have their individual bedrooms, with shared bedrooms, 2 beds. I mean, 2 queens, and then they could also have, but it would be ideal for a group of buddies, and friends who want to hang out together also at the pickleball court. But the main master suites are all taken. Having said that, yeah, Jasper is another wonderful location. I'm curious to explore, because it came from one of our participants in the Vero Beach boot camp this year, who was very thrilled and enthused by the experience she and the whole group had, and decided that they wanted to redo it, something fun at their neighborhood, which is from that particular part of the world in Indiana. And I'm excited to discover this wonderful little place and teach pickleball. So that's that. And yes, as far as Richmond boot camp is concerned, we do have 1 more spot left. We already have 7 people, so there's only 1 more spot left. Grab it as quickly as you can, because it's coming up. I'll be in Richmond in a few weeks, minus my beard.
Yes, you're very hirsute today.
I don't know what hirsute means, Randy.
It means hairy.
Oh, okay. So please do come. And the next Boot Camp Express, I know a certain number of people who work during the week and are not able to make it for a 3.5-day boot camp full experience. Will get what Randy would call the slim pickleball boot camp. Is that right? Do you call it the slim?
The Boot Camp Express, you mean, or?
The Bootcamp Express. Skills with no frills, is that what you said?
Oh, thrills, all the thrills with none of the frills.
Skills without the frills. So that's you will get still a lot of hours and attention, individual attention for these Bootcamp Expresses. So do join us if you can in Richmond, Virginia.
And information about all these camps and clinics can be found at our website, and you can view links to everything I mentioned below down in the description. Plus, if you're coming with a partner as a foursome for the stateside boot camps, you can get an even greater discount. My email will be down below, so if you're interested, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. And getting back to the program, is grip one of the things you'll notice and give advice on first at your trainings, Prem, especially if you notice that a player could benefit from a change?
Yes, oftentimes, especially in the clinics, when I watch people when they are hitting balls and it's when they're hitting balls and it's going all over the place and they are not having any control over where they want to go with it outside the body mechanics. But yes, definitely, I don't tend to normally change people's grip unless I see a real obvious flaw, which is really dissecting their game. Will see that one particular change would have a domino effect in the way the rest of their game goes in play. So if that is one aspect which I normally pay enormous attention on, how they grip their paddle and how that is actually impacting the way they execute their shots. So yes, definitely I look into very closely into the body mechanics as well as their grips. And that was one I would always modify, or I generally tend not to want to change anyone's game unless it's really not supporting their game, enhancing their game.
Right. Yeah, because my theory is if you don't have the right grip and you can see that they're spraying balls all over the place, they're already off on the wrong foot, so to speak, or off on the wrong hand, as the case may be. So I just want to point out that's one of the first things that you'll notice to help people out in trying to get off on the right hand. So let's get back to grip strength. You kind of mentioned it earlier, but explain the scale that you use.
That's an excellent question again, Randy. The scale is like, as I said, I use a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the loosest you could hold the paddle, and 10 being the hardest you could hold, or the tightest you could hold the paddle.
The death grip.
A death grip, which I often call it the death grip, because when you're just like plunging so hard on that paddle, you want to hit every ball. The problem with that grip is oftentimes most of the game when someone's hitting you hard balls, and if you have a death grip, guess what's going to happen when you're hitting a ball, when someone's hitting you a hard ball at you, it's probably just going to ricochet from your paddle and fly again.
Yeah.
So then basically you need to relax your grip on it. And there are a lot of strategies. I've talked about this before, but like if I'm holding, let's say, my Continental grip here, if I want to really, really relax my grip, from a very visual point of view, I can tell you relax, breathe in, and just sort of loosen your grip on the paddle. But from a visual point of view, if I just want to say someone to relax your paddle, I say take the thumb off that paddle. As I'm still holding.
Yeah, stop. We're going to get to that later on.
Okay, sorry.
Because I want to talk about dinking first. You shouldn't use a death grip when you dink, should you, Prem?
Should you use a death grip for dinking? Absolutely not. Again, the reason behind it, if you use a very tight grip to try and dink a ball, it'll just ricochet and it will probably fly higher so that your opponent's going to attack it. And so the grip is around about, you want to really keep it around about 3. About a 3 grip when you're trying to do that.
Which is pretty loose.
it's very loose grip. That's probably the loosest you would probably hold that paddle to. As I said, it's a 3 to 5 range, so that's probably the loosest you want to have when you're at the non-volley zone, or famously known as the land of opportunities.
Right.
Or
So let's talk about drops. When you're at or near the baseline, what should your grip strength be?
the grip strength should be around about 5.
Okay.
Around 5. Generally 5 would be a good area because you're still trying to propel that ball from a further distance than the kitchen. So you still want to have it a little tighter, but not completely tighter. Halfway point of the grip will give you the amount of energy and power to propel that ball into the kitchen if you're trying to hit a drop shot.
Now here's the point to where if you notice that your drops are higher than they should be, and it could be due to your grip strength, you have a tip for that, don't you?
Yes. Thank you for suggesting me that. You do have a tip for that. So in this particular case, like I have a Continental grip. So if I'm holding a paddle like in a Continental grip, and if I want to release or completely loosen up my grip for a good drop shot, the easiest way I would always explain is take your thumb off. Now the paddle is still, I'm holding the paddle, take the thumb out. So I can just let the thumb be there, and it will allow you to still, allow you to keep the paddle out there without it, but without it, you tightening it up. I'm not tightening it up like this, but I'm just releasing it and I'm just holding it there. So it allows me to actually drop shot it quite easily by doing that. There are some other suggestions I've seen on videos where people say take these off, or your pinky off, and you can see even if you're holding it with that one, it really wobbles around. Your paddle starts wobbling much more when you do that. So, or even if you take this, it's much more wobblier paddle. Whereas this is like you're still holding it and it doesn't wobble that much because your thumb is just more where you can propel it more. So then if you're just taking that out, you're controlling more of the ball. Does that answer your question, Randy?
Halfway. Don't you also recommend, instead of just having your thumb off of it, to also put your thumb on the side?
That it's not as of like it's not a perfect science, but I have to exaggerate a little bit. Sometimes I say, like, if you're holding it like in a Continental grip, you want to loosen your thumb, and if you want, especially for your drop shots and for your kicks, I'm not saying that you should do that all the time,
Right.
but on an exaggerated level, sometimes I say, like, put it on the side here and see how you can hit your drop shot, because you're still holding the paddle, and then you can just drop it easily that way. And it's no wrist action. It's all using just the paddle to propel the ball with your legs, but you could do that. So yeah, I often suggest them to put the thumb on the side for people who are having hard time loosening that thumb while they're hitting shots. So sometimes for exaggeration's sake, I will ask them to put it here, and you get the same effect and the same answer of hitting great drop shots without affecting how it is. And you can slide it back if you need to when you want to hit a power ball or a high ball. When you want to put it away, you can always slide that one back in to hold it a little tighter when you are trying to power a ball.
And that's what I typically do, is put it on the side. That seems to work better for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And then switch it off when I get up to the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these shots where you're trying to place the ball into the kitchen, for shots like drives and overheads, should you go for that death grip? And does that additional grip strength translate into more power on your shot? I think you already answered this, but go ahead.
Yes. Holding a paddle very tight and trying to hit a drop shot, as I said, is very difficult to do because it's going to propel that ball a lot deeper away and a lot more power, which would actually not be advantageous to you because the ball will start flying faster towards your opponent and giving you less prep time. And as you know, my fundamental philosophy is always try and sorry, always try and get your paddle to a place where you can actually try and drop it easily without propelling a lot of speed, so that you have enough time to, my philosophy, as I said, is do everything and anything which buys you time. If it doesn't buy you time, don't ever do it. So taking that into consideration, so when you're hitting drop shots or any other shot, uh, by hitting with a looser grip, it's easier to do rather than with a harder grip, because a harder grip are really good. Like if you want to drive a ball, like let's say you're trying to hit a third ball drive or a passing shot in singles, um, those will need power. So then you can grip it tight and then dead grip. So the range, as I said, generally in the game of pickleball is between 3 and 5, mostly used across the game, except maybe for a power serve or overhead or a passing shot or a drive.
Okay. Yeah, because what I typically do when serving, I'll hold the paddle tighter so I can get the depth on my serve, and then I'll switch off and put a thumb on the side, getting ready for the drop.
Mhm.
And typically my serves are the high loopy serves, so I have plenty of time to kind of step back and wait and do all that stuff with my paddle.
Yeah, and again, it would work for you. You should use that. And like,
Yeah.
even for people who are using even flat, fasty, fiery serves, in that particular case, they do have to have a tighter grip to be able to propel that ball with a lot more speed and pace. But generally, as I said, like if you're going for a high loopy serve, in your case, you seem to hold it and it seems to be effective to your game. But I also think it's also the way you grip your paddle.
Yeah.
You have a tendency to have a paddle with a claw grip or the Western grip. You tend to serve this way, so
Mhm.
which would allow you to which allows you to generate that type of tightness and still have control. And not something which I recommend generally for everyone, but in most cases, if you want to hit a hard serve, yes, tighten up your grip. But if you're just going for a simple serve with uh, less focus on the power, but more on the focus on the placement and the depth of the ball, in that particular case, that particular tightness in the grip is not necessary.
Now, at boot camps and clinics, you go through resets and blocks. And at boot camp, you bring out the old ball machine, so balls are whizzing at you. And the goal is to try and block the shot into the kitchen. What's your grip strength on a reset?
Generally between a 4 and a 5.
Okay.
Generally around about a 4 and a 5, and mid range would be nice, because again, because of the fact that the power is already generated across the court from your opponents, and you're trying to just reset that ball, you do not have to do anything else but just have a wonderfully nice loose grip to reset that ball, propelling that ball. Generally, you're basically blocking that ball, but you're using that what I call a block volley to get it into that ball. There's a lot more technique to it, but you're using your legs to try and just propel that ball back in with just a certain block, with certain give on your paddle, uh, and that can be only achieved when if you do it with a softer grip rather than with a tighter grip. But we'll go through that on the next time. Sorry, I don't know, the things pop on my screen. But generally, what I often that. So what I would normally recommend is to have a grip which allows you not to has a looseness to it, so that you can just fend the ball and get a give to it. Because if you hold it tight, the ball will just pop out of your paddle, and you can't really reset a ball and put it in the kitchen. It'll come deeper and faster back to your opponent, who's already driving balls, which means that he or she would continue driving the balls, because moving the ball faster towards them.
And you have to determine what grip you're supposed to use in possibly a split second. How do you develop that skill to change your grip strength throughout the game? Because obviously, you know, we've talked about a bunch of different shots and no one size grip or one strength grip fits all. So you have to in addition to knowing where to go on the court, you know, where to move to, checking on your partner to see what their shot's going to be, watching your opponents. There's another wrinkle in there where you have to think about, oh, I need to change my grip here. How do you develop that skill?
That is a wonderful question. Again, man, you to be pulling out a lot of curlers today. Uh, I have to say, here's what I would say. And I'm not saying this is the only way to do it again. As I've always mentioned, you know, I never claim that this is the only way to do it. Um, there's, you know, whatever works for you is the best thing to do, but it's only a way. But I will go with what I would say is a way of suggesting what you could do is by default. Um, in the game of pickleball, my default grip position is always loose.
Sorry for the cut. You were talking about how you develop the skill to change your grip strength during the game.
Yes. So this is, again, as I said before, it's not about always. This is not the only way to do it, but I generally would recommend as a default grip to actually have a loose grip between 3 and 5 to start with for most of your game, because you can always grip it hard for an overhead shot or a drive if you choose to do that without changing anything in your grip. And just tightening up your thumb would give you the power you want to generate speed if you want to generate the speed. So the default would be around about 3 and 5 for most of the game. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay. And getting maybe some muscle memory and practice into being consistent with your grip.
So you're asking how you could do that with the muscle memory. It's like, as I said, like we start off to play, you could always have your grip in a you know, with your thumb relaxed out of the grip, allowing you to play most of your shots with that. And then when you are, you know, tightening it up, so is when you're drilling or you're not practicing with someone, or even if you're playing in a recreational game, just go with the default grip position of being loose, and then tightening it up only if you need it, like for a power drive or an overhead shot. Then you tighten up your grip. So you practice that way, and then it just becomes really natural over the whole range of your game without, you know, having to change so much on your grip.
And I notice at boot camps, you'll typically growl at the participants' loose grip. You say a lot of stuff to people at boot camp, but especially like when they're doing play and stuff like that, you hear, go to the middle, loose grip, get up to the line.
Again, the loose grip is like if I start seeing people really popping balls up, you know, it's really coming up faster and higher. I definitely recommend them to loosen their grip a lot more so that they can control the ball a lot easier. Loosening your grip allows you to control the rally a little bit more easier than having a tight grip, because a tight grip would create an enormous amount of pressure. The amount of speed you generate on the ball means that the ball's coming back faster at you. And as I said before, my biggest philosophy, and I'm a big proponent of do everything and anything which buys you time. So I definitely continue to reinforce them during that, and it's part of the muscle memory to try and keep telling them to relax their grip, so that they can execute their shots with a lot more control.
Excellent. Thank you for all that, Prem. And stick
And,
around for, go ahead.
And if I were to give you a recommendation, is it now or for a grip?
Go ahead.
If I were to recommend you to have a grip you would want to use in this game of pickleball, there are multiple grips. As I said, you have what you call, if you're looking at forehand grips, you have the Continental grip, Eastern grip, and as well as the Western grip. Sometimes the semi-Western, but mostly the semi-Western and the Eastern grips are you could play with mostly on the backhand side if you're playing with your backhand. But the forehand grips are generally these three grips you could use. But if I were to suggest you to go with a grip which would work overall in your game, in the game of pickleball, I would definitely recommend you to have a more continental grip, a more traditional, conventional, the shake hand grip, as I would call, which again, I'll repeat again, it's this way. So you're holding, like as if you're shaking your hands, you're holding that paddle, and then it gives you that. So the V is right here, and with your pointy finger knuckle facing more the backhand side of your paddle. So that will give you a lot more control in your shots. You don't have to worry about spin and all that stuff. A lot more. You generate enough spin with it, which is enough for this game. It's different for tennis or other string bracket sports, but for this one, I would probably recommend you a classic continental grip.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Prem. Stick around for an inside look at boot camp, especially why past participants took the Guru's boot camp. And as I mentioned, links for the camps and clinics are available below in the description. And that's all I've got, Prem. Anything else?
I have nothing else, Randy. All I would say is, again, as I always say, is go and have fun on a pickleball court. And just remember, it's only pickleball.
It's only pickleball. Thank you so much, Prem.
Thank you, Randy.
It's been wonderful. I liked the coaching, I liked the people, I liked the one-on-one. I see the court in a different way now. It's been very good. I can tell you, I have done other boot camp, or not boot camps, but other pickleball things. What I like about this best is the small number. You know, the small number, because you get that more one-on-one attention. There's more interaction with him playing on the court with you and telling you where to be and how to see the strategy and the breakdown of the court. Don't get that in the larger ones. You know, I've been at boot camps where there have been, you know, a lot of people, and yeah, they have a lot of different coaches, but they're floating around, and sometimes you're getting help and sometimes you're not. So this was very good.
So as I said before, as a fundamental part of my teaching is do everything and anything which buys you time. So if someone is hitting you a fast ball, you have little time to react to it. So that's one of the reasons why you dink, because you give yourself more time so that you're waiting for your opponent to make the mistake.
Tell them to definitely do it. I think it will improve your game. You'll get a lot of individual attention, and I'd do it again.
I would highly recommend it.
I would say sign up, because he makes it very
easy, it's low-keyed, and there's no tension among the other people, no rivalry, it's all camaraderie.
Do it.
Yeah, absolutely do it. I would say do it. With the the one-on-one, the intimacy, it's very good. We really do learn things.
Coach-student ratio is terrific.
Yeah, well, and he teaches certain things until you get it. You know what I mean? Very good.
I would tell them to definitely do it. That I love the personal attention. There's only 8 players, and so you get a lot of one-on-one instruction and focus. So definitely sign up.
Well, today funny that I got stopped by 3 strangers for about 20 minutes. And I keep telling them I have to go to the bathroom, but they want to know about it, and they said they've been watching, and I told them that if they really enjoy pickleball and they want to be better, and I also expressed to them that I have joined other clinics, but this is the one clinic that I feel that I am going to improve and really going to step up to the next level, because it's more of a mind game. So that's what I take away from it, and I did recommend that they should read the book. And they said, yeah, we already took down the website from the banners on there. I said, absolutely. I said, read on the book on Amazon and then decide for yourself, because that's what my sister and I did. We read the book and we decided the camp would be good for us. Just wanted to say thank you. You guys go above and beyond to make sure that our every need, not just learning about pickleball, but also, our daily meals, the lunch. You pay to every little details. Whatever we need, you guys have it and ready. So we really appreciate that very much.
Just keep on keeping on, because it's wonderful.